Hey, welcome to our podcast today. Our title is Innovate Your Company to Success. I'm Kent Irwin. I am a life coach, a business coach, and a financial coach, and I love helping businesses to become more successful. The theme of this podcast series are interviews with entrepreneurs. We want to get into their minds so that we as entrepreneurs can learn from each other. Hey, please subscribe to this channel. Please like this. Today, I have a special guest with me, a friend from my days in Columbus, Ohio. His name is Urko Wood. He's an innovation and growth strategy consultant who uses a process called jobs to be done. It's very interesting, and I think you'll find out how powerful it is for understanding customer needs and opportunities for growing your business. So I invited Urko to talk with me about what he does, how it can help you who are entrepreneurs or business owners to differentiate themselves and grow. So welcome, Urko. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Ken. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun today. So tell me a little about what you do, Urko, and how you got into this area of consulting. I love this space of innovation. It's fascinating. So how did you get into this?
Well, I got into it when I came here to Columbus in the late 90s and early 2000s to do voice of the customer research, which was best in class customer research. I was working with a strategy firm helping large B2B business-to-business companies with their strategic accounts. And we go out and interview the key people in those strategic accounts to find opportunities for improvement, maybe innovation. And we did that for a few years, but I got an offer to join a company in town to help them full-time to find new markets and create new products and services. And I realized that voice of the customer, as rigorous and well-respected as effective it was for current products and services, it was not the right tool for new services. And this was very startling and not good for a new consultant on the job where we all were in good faith, but this was the wrong tool for what they needed. Yeah. So I did some ad hoc things to make it work. But what really helped is I happened to read an article in the Harvard Business Review by this guy named Tony Ulwick, CEO and the founder of Stratagen, who had really dealt with exactly the same problem when he was at IBM 10 years earlier. And he had figured out how to do innovation when you don't have a product in the market. And it spoke to me beautifully. I immediately understood this is the next evolution of customer research because we can get customers' needs from them. They can tell us what they want. I ended up reaching out to him. The timing was right. We hit it off, and I started working there about 6 weeks later in 2006. Matter of fact, it'll be 19 years in February, and worked there for about 7 years, nearly 7 years, gained a great amount of understanding and depth in this jobs to be done. It's now called jobs to be done. It wasn't known that back in that first HBR article, but I started Reveal Growth Consultants in 2012 to inspire and equip clients to innovate and grow without guesswork, using this jobs to be done approach.
So you've been doing it about 20 years.
Yes, 19 full years on it, February 6th. So just to say a little more, we help companies to find their customers, their target customers, hidden needs, so they can build unique offerings that resonate with customers and turn revenue growth into a repeatable business process. Most people don't think innovation and can be a regular business process. This is one of the great exciting things about jobs to be done.
I love it. I mean, you cut your teeth in the right space at the right time as this was evolving. So I'm kind of curious, you find yourself specializing in any kind of industry or type of company? You know?
That question is a very good question. And I just say, I don't know anything about your solution expertise, as I suspect. I'm very confident. And that's not my role. My role is to find the important unsatisfied needs in your market that you don't know about, or you don't know how important they are in a ranking, in a format that's ideal for you to apply your expertise. So together, you're going to be able to accomplish much more than you could possibly do alone. Not because of my industry expertise, but because I'm a growth strategy and jobs to be done expert, which is complementary to your industry expertise.
But it sounds to me like having that fresh set of eyes is actually an asset, as opposed to coming into it with assumptions, taking a fresh set of eyes and really asking the right questions so that the company can innovate and meet the needs of the customer and grow.
There's definitely some of that. I would say a little more nuance to it, that it is necessary to be conversant, to be conversational with my clients' customers. Now, because I'm uncovering what they're trying to get done, their jobs to be done. with my client's solution. And so that can take quite a bit of time. Morgan Stanley had me and a couple of other consultants that were involved read their director of research book about portfolio management, hedge fund management, analysts. I mean, these are things that I had known from a distance from business school, but they wanted to make sure that I could speak the same language, and they were willing to test us after the book. Because I mean, this is the issue that every senior leadership team has, which is, can I trust this person talking to my customers and my competitors' customers? So you have to be very knowledgeable and trustworthy in the language that their customers speak. That's a very different thing than being an engineer and trying to come up with the next solution with the engineering team.
It really is. So I love how you can kind of adapt quickly, learn the industry. And it's easier now than ever with all the resources that are out there. But
yes,
it's really key that you take that much of an interest and involvement to really want to learn their business as much as possible. It seems like to me, I've worked in innovation roles with other companies, and I can see the value in companies needing this help. When in the business life cycle do you typically find companies reach out to you? Were they struggling, or was it after they 5 years after they launched? There
are a number of ways. There are 3 ways I'd like to answer that briefly. Okay. One is, I should mention, our ideal client is a business leader who recognizes that the crux of their growth challenge is understanding their target customers' complex needs. So they recognize they don't have a good understanding of their customers' needs. They recognize they're misaligned with their market as a result, and they don't have a competitive advantage anymore because they're misaligned. I'm working with a commercial real estate leasing agency right now. The market has changed a lot in the last 5 years, and what worked for 20 years before that isn't working today. So they need to get a real good read on what are their landlords and their landlords' agents that represent them. What really are their needs today so they can tweak their value proposition to meet them? It's hard to nail your value proposition if you're not sure what your customers value. And the way to nail your value proposition is to nail the job, to help them nail the job they're trying to get done, because they're hiring your products and services in mind to get a job done. That's the first thing, is to know our ideal client recognizes the crux of their challenge is understanding the customer's complex needs. Second thing is, there is, like you alluded to, a lifestyle, or I should say a life cycle, not a lifestyle, life cycle. Right. And the way I've always understood it is there's the startup phase, and in that phase is achieving product market fit. And we can do that. We do that mostly with funded. It depends on how much they want us to do it. If we're doing it, it's usually going to be a funded startup that needs expert help to get there. And I'm putting something together, Kent, that's probably worth mentioning, that we're creating a lean jobs to be done service. And I'll be putting together a PDF. It explains this further, a free webinar, a short course in the next few months. So it's something that small companies and mid-sized companies that want to try to do it themselves can learn from. But that first phase for companies is to nail the product market fit. Once that's clear and they've achieved that, then a lot of companies don't want to mess around with innovation anymore. They want to scale. The next period of years is do everything you can to run with the competitive advantage that you just created. So go to new industries, hire salespeople, blitz the marketplace with your advertising, whatever, the ways to scale might look like. But at some point, there's going to be a marginal return on those investments, and they'll realize, hey, here's an adjacent market that we really should be in. And so we'll help them. That's when I'm doing corporate stuff, that's my best customer. They recognize their sales has slowed. What was an aggressive growth path with a competitive advantage is slowing down. They need to look for other avenues to grow. That's probably my best niche. But with the lean jobs to be done, in more of helping them get the product market fit. Make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
There's a wonderful, I think, very helpful model that McKinsey and the Wharton Business School created called the 3 of growth. So the 3 horizons are your current business model and how you're competing now. And that's pretty much established. But for Horizon 2, we need to be aware and try to plan. How are we going to compete when what we do now becomes irrelevant or obsolete? And that could be an adjacent market. It could be a new technology for a current market. But we need to have those plans and start seeding that horizon 2 early, because there's a lot of research that shows if you wait until you're already declining, it's too late. Right? You have to be proactive. And same with horizon 3. Right? Horizon 2 is sometimes described as a stepping stone to horizon 3. Horizon 3 may be a much bigger opportunity, but it takes a lot more R&D to get there. So that's the riskiest, because it's not clear how long it's going to take, if the technology you're investing in even is going to work sometimes, how much money it takes. So that's more of a long-term thing, and more of a corporate thing, because resources away from the current business. But I think it's helpful just for every CEO or business owner to be thinking, hey, there is going to be a day when I'm going to realize it's not working anymore. What can I do now to prepare for that? That at least with Horizon 2.
It occurred to me the other day that, let's say a new business they just launched a year ago with this brand new idea. In actuality, would you agree with this statement? They just launched it, let's say, a year ago. But that is probably a 5-year-old idea, because there was years before gestating, designing it, launching it, and boom. So in my opinion, that companies need to be constantly innovating, because in this market, things can become quickly out of date and lose their margins, get thinner, and more competitors. Would you agree with that?
Yes, generally. I guess you said it was really 5 years in the making. I guess it depends on, sometimes there are insights that can be immediately applied into a winning new offering. That's the only caveat I would say. But yeah, the gist of everything you're saying, I agree with.
That's really good. So how do companies typically innovate on their own when they're not working with an innovation team? Yeah, I've worked with a lot of companies. They don't really have an innovation team or innovation team.
Yeah.
So many companies do that, especially after they've done their initial startup and now they want to innovate into something new. How do companies?
Yeah. Well, this is a very big challenge. That's why I do what I do. It's a particularly big challenge for the small and mid-sized businesses. And that's one reason I'm making this lean jobs be done, which will provide them with jobs thinking without the heavy consulting and fees and complexity that the big companies want, because it does deliver significant predictability and precision, which is what every leader wants, right? Even when it comes to innovation, it's amazing that this can be done.
So when you use the term lean, that goes along with the book that came out several years ago, The Lean Startup.
Yes, to a degree. I mean, it's really, I'm using it. I need to get more familiar. I know the 5 things, and I actually have the Toyota way, which is the book you're probably referring to, because I realize I'm going to get questions like this, and I want to make it more like their lean principles. But frankly, I'm using it right now as simply a much cheaper, simpler, almost like if you think of the Pareto rule, 20% of something delivers 80% of the value. I'm asking myself, what's the 20% of what I've been doing for larger corporations that will really help these small companies without even hiring me? They'll just get the mindset alone is huge. And then there's a few key questions that come from that mindset that can change the game. You don't need to hire me. I've seen this with some clients to know. So we can get to that.
I don't think companies innovate that well. It's been my experience in general.
Yeah.
So why is that? How do they typically innovate? Because they're not, I don't run into the companies that use innovation specialists like you.
That's right. I think from the middle market up, you'll start seeing VPs of innovation, and it becomes a much bigger, more important deal for them and their growth. But it's got a negative branding, I think, the term innovation. It has this ring of parallel, administrative, expensive corporates, right? And if you're a small business, you want to be lean and mean and run and agile, and you want to differentiate. So this is the big aha in talking to some smaller businesses as I've prepared for, getting my wording and offer right for this lean jobs be done. I found that many of them are put off by the term innovation. They want to differentiate, or they like the term competitive advantage. Some of them are open-minded to innovation, but innovation is really the means to getting a competitive advantage and differentiating. So the words differentiate and competitive advantage are much more attractive, I have found. So that's exactly what we do. The only reason I don't say that is because innovation, I think, a little more precise. We can define it as creating new value for a customer. There's an unmet need the customer has, and we're creating new value. That's all I mean by innovation. Differentiation can take different forms. Competitive advantage can take different forms. But what I'm doing definitely is to differentiate and establish competitive advantage. That is the whole point. Finding unmet needs and addressing them.
Love it. Okay. So how do companies typically innovate? I don't see companies working with innovation specialists like you too much. Sometimes the term innovation scares people. We're really talking about being a market differentiator or to get a competitive advantage, to really help them do that well. Because a lot of companies, would you say, aren't good at doing that?
I agree. Most are not good because there is a lot of confusion about what innovation is, what a customer need is, and how to execute it. So one of the things I do with my clients is clarify these things. So innovation, just to keep it simple, I like to say it's the process of first discovering your target customer's unmet needs and then developing solution ideas to address them. The sequencing is critical. There was a Wharton professor who said, this famous word problem solving, he said, there are messes and there are problems. A problem is when you and your team agree about the definition of the problem, but you disagree on the solution. That's a problem. But a mess is when you and your team disagree about the problem and disagree on the solution. That's a mess. And the way to turn a mess into a problem is to define the problem. And that's what most companies are not doing because of the myth. It's a very common, persistent myth going back to Henry Ford that customers cannot tell us what they want. So one of the best practices today is to launch an MVP, a minimally viable product. Or with design thinking, it's to, through empathy, try to understand what's going on and quickly go to prototyping. Same kind of thing. And Agile, all about iterating. These are the three big, most popular practices: design thinking, lean startup, and Agile. And it's all about getting feedback as quickly as possible to iterate your way to success. But I ought to address this big myth because this is ensuring high failure rates. And the myth is that customers cannot tell us what they want. And the problem with that is, and they'll use, I mentioned Henry Ford. Henry Ford, maybe you've heard that famous line of his that if I asked customers what they wanted, they would have told me a faster horse. Right? You've heard that?
Right. Absolutely.
And a lot of people use that as a proof text, if you will, for this belief that customers can't tell us what they want. And it's not true, or it's only half true. It's only true if we're asking customers for product and service specifications. Of course, that's not their area of expertise. They're not mechanics. They're not engineers. They don't know. That's like the doctor asking the patient, what's the best treatment plan? So that's true. If you're asking for product or service specifications, they don't know. But that's the only half of it. If you're asking them for what they're trying to accomplish, they can't tell you how they want to feel, what they want to experience, what other related jobs they're trying to get done. In fact, they can give us virtually everything that a leadership team or product team needs in terms of the market insights to generate winning ideas with confidence consistently, because they will know, say, the top opportunities in the market before they go into idea generation. That's what we do. We find the market, we get all the relevant market and company information up front, so the team has that, and they can take those insights into their, what we call the focused brainstorming, so that they can generate ideas and get a high degree of product market fit at concept creation before development, which of course dramatically increases success rates, quickens time to market, and gives them a repeatable way, a reliable way to drive innovation and growth.
So since customers can't tell you, you can't do focus groups and do all these things. There's a lot of failed things. You can get feedback from customers. What you're trying to understand for companies to have a competitive advantage or to be that really a market differentiator is, so tell me how you are able to help your clients do that.
Well, I want to just make sure that my last point stuck.
Please.
What I'm trying to say is that it's false. It's a myth that customers cannot tell us what they want.
That's a myth.
It's a myth because the words like, tell me what you want. Most people will think, if I'm a solution provider, let's say I'm providing you with some service or product, will think that I'm asking for, well, I want a Model X. Let's say you're buying a car. What do you want? Well, I'm thinking about the 250. So people think in terms of products and services, and that's normal. But the question is, what are people trying to accomplish? This is the big breakthrough. I may have shared with you, there's that wonderful quote from Theodore Levitt: people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill. They want a 1/4-inch hole. And I love that quote because it illustrates this point that needs are separate and distinct from product and service solutions so clearly. The drill is not the hole. The drill is one solution, but it could be a pick or a punch or a laser or some yet to be invented tool. But regardless, solutions are separate and distinct from true customer needs, which at a high level are a job to be done, like make a whole. That's a good job statement. And notice there's no reference to a product or service, so the clients won't be constrained to current products and services when they're doing making innovation, and they're much more likely to have breakthrough innovation as a result. But the big thing that I want to point out that makes these when we capture customer needs, makes the need we capture ideal for innovation, different from anybody else out there that's doing customer interviews, is they're rigorously separate and distinct from product and service solutions. So you don't have that problem. But the number one biggest thing that decoupling does, Kent, it's not just avoid being constrained. It's that customers can now say what they want to accomplish. So it's debunking this is the big myth that has been ensuring high failure rates for decades. What I'm saying is customers can tell us what they want if we're asking them, what do you want to accomplish, rather than asking them for product or service specifications. Nobody in the other camps has been making that distinction. As a matter of fact, if you look at the three big methods, and they're all very valuable, they're all doing terrific work. Jobs to be done comes before them, precedes, and helps them, enhances them, because we're giving valid need statements. We know they're important and unsatisfied. So design thinking and agile can be much more effective. So they're not competitive, but all of those three methods, all of those three approaches were developed with this misunderstanding as a core belief. And I know this from going back to Tim Brown at IDEO, who introduced design thinking. He says, customers cannot tell us what they want. Just consider the Henry Ford quote. He said that. Eric Ries, who wrote Lean Startup, said the Ford quote, and customers cannot tell us what they want. And the Agile Manifesto, they talk about the importance of iteration from the customer, the internal customer, for software, because they don't want to presume they can't know what the customer really wants. Now, I would beg all of those situations, jobs to be done fits beautifully. If you talk to a customer, let's say an internal customer in your IT, and you're trying to build some software for them, you don't go and say, what do you want? Right. Because they're going to say, well, I don't know. What can you give me? And they'll say, well, we could use this technology to do this. Right. You need to ask that business leader, what are you trying to accomplish that's important to you, but not getting well satisfied with the company's tools right now? That's exactly what I'm asking external customers, but they're internal customers, and they're up against the same problem. If I may just put a exclamation mark with a quick story about this. I was talking to a guy who's a business leader at a big firm here in town. We were talking about this very issue. He went to their shared services IT. You know how a lot of companies share services. So they have all the business units use IT. And he was talking that my friend is a leader in one of the business units. And he was talking to another guy who is a peer in another business unit in this larger company. And the guy was saying, hey, we got IT to create an assessment tool so we can go out to customers and assess their condition and design our IT offering for them. So it's an assessment. My friend's colleague asked IT to do that, and they did it. And it was over $100,000 they had to pay shared services to get that tool. Okay. And then my friend, who was a peer and had a very similar circumstance, said, hey, so-and-so showed me what you did. Can you just, with a couple of really simple changes, make one for us too? Shouldn't take more than a few minutes. And they went, no. We start everything from scratch. We need to go one step at a time and build it one step at a time. And I was telling him, time out, that's really a waste of time. God bless them. I'm sure these people are doing tremendous things that I'll never be able to do. Right. But what the real question should be, well, Mr. Business Leader, what are you trying to accomplish? How will you measure success? These are the questions that they can build directly to. They don't have to iterate, wait for a response to is on track. That's a very slow, inefficient guessing game compared to jobs to be done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Sounds like the work that you do, it's foundational for all kinds of product development, all kinds of product management processes within the agile and design thinking spaces. It's because anybody can gather data, but it's gathering the right kind of data and asking questions in the right way. So we're not just getting superficial or wrong answers. We're getting jobs to be done answers.
That is exactly right.
That's really,
I often say you have to know who your target customer is. what inputs to obtain from them, how to get them, and how to use them.
Right.
That's what most companies can't answer that. They don't have a good definition of what a customer need is.
Right.
How can you go out and get customer needs when it's not even clear what a need is?
When we've talked about this before, we've talked about hidden needs. Urko, isn't that what we're talking about here, the hidden needs?
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, that's a great question. That's something we promised to do, and there are 3 ways that we do it.
Okay.
One is we change the perspective. So here's the big mindset shift. We encourage our team that we're working with to shift from solution provider. We're all solution providers. We have to shift our focus from solution provider to job executor. That's your customer. So we're moving from our point of view to their point of view. All they want to do with your product or service is get a job done. So shift from solution provider to job executor. Stop generating ideas and start helping customers get their jobs done. So that's simply by doing that and then asking questions along the lines of, what are you trying to get done, Ken, in this certain circumstance where you use our product or service? That's a very different question than how can we change or improve our current product?
Or I want to highlight something here. So before we get further down the road.
Yes.
So when I worked in product management, Urko, and some of the things you've talked about is that it's so easy. In fact, I made the mistake a lot. I was reminded quite a bit. Once you discover the problem or you think you know the problem, we wouldn't even get into the problem space maybe deeply enough. We would jump to solution. Or we would see a need in the marketplace and we would jump to solution before we spend time in the problem space, before we spend time in research, asking the questions that you're asking. So I assume you've run into the same.
Oh, that is, I would say, the biggest cause of failure. We're not good. People are not good at discerning the difference between knowing an important unsatisfied need versus thinking they know an important unsatisfied need. So this is all, you may know that misunderstanding customer needs is widely considered to be the biggest reason for new product and business failure. When it turns trying to stand out from the competition, through innovation, differentiation, into a frustrating and costly guessing game. So that's what we do is we come in to help them find those hidden needs. And I was starting to talk about some of those ways we do that. This is a huge problem that people are rushing into solution space, thinking that the best way to innovate is through iteration and getting feedback. By the way, this is not what Thomas Edison did. People will also use his quote about, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I learned 10,000 ways that didn't work. That's also used as a proof text that just iterate. The fact is, I know from talking to his great grannies who wrote a book after 3 years of studying his stuff in New Jersey, he wrote a book, Innovate Like Edison. She confirmed that early on in his career, he made this mistake. He created a patent, he created a prototype, took it to his target customers, and literally within 30 seconds, they rejected it and told him why. Now, if he had known what I'm advocating, like, why are you doing this instead of that? Because they were, what he thought was wasting a lot of time. He was going to try to save them time. They would have told him what they told him after he wasted all that time, money, and resource. So you don't have to get feedback from a MVP. You can say, what are you trying to accomplish? 90 measures of success without any in mind. And then you can build your product with the knowledge you can do what they're trying to get done. You can help them get it done.
So the key call out here, in my opinion, is bad product development or bad innovation or bad attempts at trying to have a competitive advantage result in maybe no growth, spent money, maybe incremental growth, but it seldom results in 10x growth. I want to help my clients grow. What we're talking about today is how to go about this market differentiation exercise within companies so that they can own that 10x space in their industry or within their product line, their service. And so I see companies go after the shiny penny, the solution, the Band-Aid. They run after these things because a salesman comes in and gives them a solution to a problem they might not even realize that they have, or a problem that they really don't even have or that their customers have.
Oh, right. Exactly. We call them phantom needs. They don't exist. They're solutions for non-existent needs.
Right. Now, a lot of times the leader of an organization or the owner, they know they have an idea that was very successful the first time. A lot of times owners or entrepreneurs were successful with their first business idea. Now they're to the point where they need to have a competitive advantage because the margins have really slid. And so they think a lot of times, they intuit that they think they know what the best decision is to move in that direction because they were successful the first time and the first few times.
Yes.
I hate to say it, but that can be a huge mistake.